Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the SAP Revenue Accounting and Reporting User Group meeting for February 13th. Happy almost Valentine's Day. And we're joining you here from the SAP Insider Financials here at the lovely Wynn Casino. So we'll get started in just a moment. Pete, you all set?
Yes, John, I'm all set.
All right, let's get started. It's all yours, Pete.
It's okay? Okay. It's okay, John? I know I'm trying to close it. It's not... How's that? Yeah. Are you seeing the full slides or not? You're actually seeing the same thing, so that's not really helping. Hold on. We'll just do it from here then. That's probably bigger, right? All right, everyone, thanks for joining the 12th RAR User Group. Good afternoon and evening for folks. Sorry we had a late notice, but we're actually co-locating this one at the SAP Insider Financials Conference, and so we had a conflict that we couldn't resolve till we were on site. So anyway, what we want to do is we want to give you some updates. I think most of you know about RAR, and you know, basically it's RAR stands for Revenue Accounting Reporting. It's basically a solution that allows us to make sure that we can automate and simplify revenue accounting. If you think about RAR as a funnel, we can easily pour in the documents, use rules and events to then be applied to represent the accounting, and out the other side come the journal entries. Thanks again to the RAR community. We continue to grow. We're now up to over 1,200 members. And for today's session, we want to thank Bramisol again for sponsoring, and also for the webinar platform, the GoToMeeting platform. Thank you, John and Dave and Bramisol. Also, we have here from Bramisol, Chris Ritterhern and Sarah Thompson. Thanks for joining. We also want to thank SAP Insider Financials. They did give us a room here on site, so we're going to do a little networking. We got a couple of folks here, and we're going to go through some topics after the virtual meeting. And really, this is feedback from the user group meeting in December, actually, sorry, late November, to do more experience sharing. So we've now added that to the agenda. We'll also talk a little bit about the roadmap and talk a little bit about the schedule, because based on our earlier user group meeting on leasing, we decided that it could be this format works in a month's time at SAP Centric Financials, so anyway, we'll keep you posted on that. Really want to remind you about the mission statement and community goals. I mean, the knowledge sharing, I think, happens well. We had events like this, and that seems to be working fairly well, but the feedback has really been on the informal networking or experience sharing. That's really where we're trying something different today, and hopefully it's successful, and we'll learn from it, and we'll do something better in about a month's time. And also at this event, we meet with a lot of customers, so that's a good place to get really the latest understanding of the pulse of the community, what's going right and wrong, what could be ahead. And you know, this event, we've seen lots of customer interest. We've already had several sessions on revenue recognition. And at the booth, we've got steady traffic with questions. And so anyway, it's still a vibrant topic. And I think the thing that continues to surprise us a little bit is that we have customers that went really live on the new standard with a solution that was not automated. They maybe Excel, maybe it's Access, maybe it's a combination, and those customers are continuing now to look for solutions to automate, and so we're seeing a lot of that. When you look at the product side, I mean, there's not a lot to report since the last meeting, but we did have our first feature pack out, which is good. So that was a good accomplishment. So again, if you look technically, that's RAR 1.3.4, but when you look into the code, you're going to see that the feature pack means that we do have some improvements that are shipped in there, and some of them are actually quite nice improvements. So we'll go through that here in a little bit and just quickly walk through what those ones are. It's more important, I think, that you look at the notes related to those, and really that's, I think we want to give you a heads up on one of the features and how you adopt it. But again, that's really more information so that you can consume after the call and then look into that feature pack / support pack, and then look at the notes around the new features that have been delivered. The number of customers continue to go up. We've added, I think, since the last one, technically almost 20 customers. So we still had a good download rates and pickup rates at the end of the year, and we're still seeing a couple new customers a week this year. So we're expecting the end of the year at least with 200 customers, maybe more. And so we're still steadily seeing interest in the topic. When you look at kind of the statistics, we are since November have had a lot of customers go live. Now the 100+ live customers in February is a little foreshadowing. I mean, we're forecasted to be at 100 almost by the end of February. Let's call it into March, but that's kind of where we're headed. So by the next meeting, we should definitely be, we think, at 100+. But literally, we're getting very close. A lot of customers went live over the year end, and they're now doing their first month-end close, right? And as those customers go through the month-end close and they're live fully, not only from a technical perspective, but from an operational and a financial accounting and reporting perspective. So anyway, that's a lot of interesting stuff that's going on. I was in Newtown Square kind of with the team that's tracking a lot of those customers a couple weeks ago, and anyway, they're working very hard and diligently in trying to make sure, you know, customers get really good help as they go through the first you know, month-end close. And I think we'll continue to track it. I mean, certainly it'd be very interesting to see as we go through each of the first reporting cycles, the first month, and then the first quarter, and then the first half year, and then the first year end. But so far, you know, as I would say, so far pretty much as expected, right? And now we're always waiting for the unexpected, but so far it's pretty, I would say so far so good. On the roadmap side, really nothing's changed since we spoke last time. Again, we have this format, we have the recent innovations, and each year shows the planned innovations, product direction, the future product vision. And really we're very focused on the adoption of legal changes and functional round-offs, and increasing some of the automation for 15 and 606 as we go into next year. So what that means from the product side is really the feature pack strategy continues. So we did deliver one in December, literally on the 15th. I'll go through that here in a little bit. And we're going to continue. There's another one coming out in March. We're trying to get some information on that pulled together. So hopefully by the March meeting, we can tell you what new features are planned for that feature pack, which will be literally feature pack 5. And then we'll probably see, you know, some more feature packs or support packs later this year into next year, and that will continue. That was also something we had planned, because a lot of customers are going live. They don't want a major release. They don't want to have to do a lot of major regression testing or, you know, any big changes. So that also, we think, is a better strategy for making the software more consumable. With that said, as we get more into the summer or closer to SAP Insider, or I should say Sapphire, in early June, we are starting to think about what could the next release be. And so we are starting to have the conversation of, you know, let's talk about the major features, prioritize them, and have those discussions. So stay tuned as we kind of whittle down that list. We're going to communicate that to you and then ask if you're interested in participating in any customer engagement initiative discussions on those topics. Those could typically mean, for instance, one popular one is SD revenue recognition parity. So we have a lot of features in SD revenue recognition. Not all of those features are yet in RAR, but we have a lot of customers wanting them. And so I can imagine that we would have a customer engagement initiative where we take the feature gaps of SD Rev Rec and RAR and we prioritize them and start asking customers, you know, which ones are most important, how would they do it, if we had mock-ups, would they get feedback on it? And so I think at the next user group meeting, we'll try to give you a better sense of that and engage which customers might be interested in some kind of activity around that. Another part of that feedback cycle would be an advisory council. That would be a customer that's definitely very serious about providing feedback, maybe even hosting a meeting for some other customers with SAP, and really going deep dive in some of those topics. So we'll keep you posted on that as well. I now wanted to kind of go through just a high-level overview of what is in the feature pack. Now, this has already been released, and some of you may have already seen it, but really this is the summary. We have several improvements here that are listed. Really the one, I'll go through each one in quick succession. The one I wanted to just highlight is there is, with the contract liability one and contract assets, there is a new feature that you pretty much, if you install the feature pack, you will get the new functionality. And so you have to make a selection if you want to keep the old behavior. So just be aware of that one and make sure that before you install feature pack 4, you understand that and that will not cause any issues. If it is, you can then, there is a way to make sure that you opt in and can maintain the current set of functionality. So anyway, we have rules for deriving values and fields in contact, and the thing to do is when we send out the slides, we'll make sure the notes are on here, but if you go into the notes, typically, you'll see that at the very bottom, they'll tell you what the OSS note is. So I don't know if you can see this, but anyway, just make sure when you get the slides, you go into the notes, and that will make sure that you can get the right information. So that's the first one. The second one is the customized logic to calculate the contract liabilities and contract asset. This one I think is very important. We had a lot of customers asking about this previously. This, again, the note is in the actually notes of the slide. We hear kind of an example side by side, right, of what's default and what's not with feature pack 4. So anyway, just make sure when you look at this one that if you like the new behavior, you don't really have to do anything, as far as I know, except install it. If you want the current behavior, then you have to opt in. So just make sure you understand that. There is also now an improvement to calculate the remaining fulfillment percentage for time-based performance obligation, which is nice. We've had this request for a number of years. We have a cleanup on the reverse productive data from external sender components. This one I think is probably not as widely requested, but still it's important. A couple of these projects where we've had this request. There's an extended check before saving contracts to the database. I think this is a good one. It's part of the diagnostics and preventative check, right, that we have added. And that's really a lesson learned from all of our projects, where we can make sure that before you save certain things to the database, you make sure that if the data is not consistent, we flag it and we prevent that from happening. There's also now a change for transactional currency in the sales order. Again, this is not multi-currency. We have a lot of customers wanting multi-currency, but it is a minor improvement, I would say, or improvement around the handling of foreign currency. And then we also have some enhancements to POB cancellations for linked POBs. Now, linked POBs seem to get more and more popular, so this is something that we've had, I think, requested for a while. So it's good to see that this has been added. And there's also, I guess the notes here is listed actually on the slide, so it's a little easier to see. So that is kind of the update on Feature Pack 4, very high level, very quick. Again, read the notes. On the go-to-market topic, we are still working on executive book and process, so I'm actually going to see some folks here at SAP Insider to see what the progress is. We are at financials, so it's going well. One thing that we wanted to remind you of is that if you are a partner, there is some master classes coming up. We would call them our advanced technical training. So Sai, who helps us on the development side, is organizing that. There's also the regular partner boot camp coming up in Sydney, and I think it's May. So if you're interested in either one of those, the advanced technical training, there is a small cost for it. Sai's telling me it's about $250. On the Sydney boot camp, Sydney, Australia, that charge for the partner boot camp would be no cost, but of course, you may have to travel there, which could be a long way. Okay, so that's really all I had on the go-to-market. I missed one thing, SAP-centric financials. So that's really the next event coming up, and John and I are talking, we'll get some feedback here about potentially doing, like we did here, co-located or the next user group meeting somewhat timed around that event, so we can try to leverage the fact that several of our customers and colleagues will be all at the same place at the same time. On the experience sharing side, we're going to get to that here in a couple minutes. For the folks that are here on site, the topics that we have come up with are around migration, reporting, and go live. And these are some of the topics that came up. Certainly migration came up in the polls that we did back in November, and that continues to come up. We've also had many customers ask about, hey, how do you go live, or how do you manage the system after you go live, really from an operational standpoint. So we were going to discuss that as well as reporting. So that's really all I had. I think for now, I'm going to see if there's any questions online. No questions? Okay. I think that's pretty much it. So we did the poll last time, so now we're actually going to try it. We're going to try a little experience sharing, and hopefully we'll learn from it, and we'll be able to make a better event for the next time. On the logistics, apologize on the late notice, but we did have some conflicts here on site that prevented us from sending out the meeting invite in advance. So the next one we'll try to do better in terms of getting the meeting out much more in advance, so you have better time to plan to attend. Not sure, I think we may have a question in the chat. Okay.
Yeah, what's the difference between old and new contract asset / liability calculation? I think that goes back to the feature that was added in your feature list, Pete.
Yeah.
So maybe if you have a second, or I know we have a couple of minutes. You talked about the features, but is there a so what to some of these features, right? So why did we do them? What's the big deal? Does that make sense?
Well, yeah. I mean, most of them are improvements because customers have requested them, right? So the contract asset liability calculations is because we had customers say, hey, you should take a look at this because there is potentially other ways to do it. And we had this early on too. We work with some customers and partners, and the way we would do certain postings, our folks, we determine that's fine under the standard, but there could be a different way or interpretation from different customers. So literally this is making the product more flexible for the way that some customers may want to calculate the contract asset and liability. And essentially we just had some customers are coming back and was that we would like to do it a little differently. Can you support it? And essentially that's what it comes down to. So it's really along the line of trying to be more flexible and meeting different sets of requirements that customers may have. So you have to read through the slide and get an idea of kind of how the current process is working and what's changed. You'll see that you know, this is the default now, and it's slightly different. And you'll get into, sorry, the discussion talks about this a little bit. Now, you may not understand it fully from the slide, and there's some information in here about how it works, which means you're going to have to go to the note. And I'm trying to make sure the note is here. If it's not, I will add it.
It's in there, I think.
Yeah, it is. It's in there. 2560937. Yep. So our recommendation is make sure you read through the note, and then if you still have a question after that, then we can log a ticket with support and ask the question. If you still can't get the answer, then we'll go to product management and get it clarified.
Okay. I don't have any other questions at this time, Pete.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks everyone for attending. I think we can wrap and we can move to the offline experience sharing. We'll report back about how that works.
Cool. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day and happy Valentine's Day to everyone. Bye-bye.
Tomorrow. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everyone.